Well, Mr. Anya Okeke joins us now. He's a senior program officer at the Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center, also known as CISLAC. You're welcome to Sunrise Daily.
Thank you.
Well, the battle against corruption goes on. We had a guest earlier, Mr. Aditokumbo Momuni. I don't know if you're able to catch what he was saying, but he believes that the battle has gained some ground, that things are not quite the same from when the president assumed office. He believes that there's been a bit of difference. Do you agree with him? Yeah,
to some extent, there's some difference, but I think that a lot still needs to be done. There's some difference. The anti-corruption battle is very much on the forefront of Nigerian discourse, whether they are doing it rightly or not, but at least people are aware and people are, even holding the government accountable on those promises that are made. So there's a whole lot of difference. It is in the open domain. People are talking about it, which is good, and efforts are also being made, though not as much as we have expected in the beginning, but efforts are still being made to ensure that the anti-corruption battle does not lose steam.
Yeah, before we go to what more needs to be done, what efforts are you currently seeing?
Like I've mentioned, there's public traction.
The fact that people are talking about it.
Yes, there's public traction around corruption, which is very good.
But talk.
Yes, there's talk, and there are some efforts being made. I'm aware that there are so many issues around the anti-corruption that the government is talking about, issues around beneficial ownership, issues around open contracting. I mean, there are pressure on government to do, have a contract data system that is open there for people to look at. And the issues of asset recovery is open there, is being talked about. Issues about the whole question about illicit financial flow outside the country is being talked about. But it is how these issues are now being managed that I think that we need to move on to. But in terms of understanding what needs to be done, I think there's a lot of effort to understand what needs to be done, and for, just to put up the necessary mechanism to make it happen.
Okay, so on the part of what is not being done, what you had expected will be done, which I'm sure are numerous, what were you looking to see?
One, when you tell citizens about issues that you recover assets, there's a whole cry about how much have you recovered? Where are these monies coming from? Are we talking about, anticipated recovery or real recovery? Because if, for example, you have done real recovery, which is even part of what has appeared in our national budget, who did we get these monies from?
How do you qualify real recoveries?
No, I mean, if, for example, maybe you have passed through the normal, if it is the ones that need to go through court processes, and they have all passed through the court processes, and there have been court pronouncements that these governments need to be, these assets need to be given back to the state. There's a judicial pronouncement. These are real recoveries. It is not probably if there are still issues around litigations about a particular asset in court, and you are coming out to say that you have recovered those assets. So what we mean by recovery are those ones. Maybe, for example, we talk about maybe the Abacha loot, and the Swiss gives us back the 231 million or thereabout. These are real recoveries. These are money that you can now pin down and say that this is government money. But if, for example, it is still speculative, you cannot call it real recovery. So when we get those ones that are even, because for them to even appear in the national budget means that it is fully recovered.
What if they say we have a, let's say, 85% chance that we would actually be able to recover this money? We are looking at the cases and we think this is going to be a bad case for whoever wants to come and claim this money.
But there's still a loophole of 15%. Mm-hmm. So until you complete it 100%, you cannot fully claim that it is your property. because the matter is still in litigation. You may, I mean, it's speculation to say, okay, we have, because it's still judgmental, you have 85%, so what? So what is 85%? But you need to be fully assured that this is the government property, you have received the asset, before you can now claim ownership. You cannot say you are claiming ownership of 85%, except probably there's any other form of arrangement where you are saying, oh, based on discussions that we have had, we are giving back to the corrupt person 15% and we are taking the 85%. But if you have not fully recovered, you are not fully recovered. But if you have fully recovered, what we want to see is who list out these assets. Let us know what is recovered. Who are we getting them from? And what do we want to use this money for? And not just pull it back into the entire budgetary system and you cannot fully account for those assets.
What about the whistleblowing system, the whistleblower policy? Do you think that it has yielded the kind of fruits that you're hoping that it would yield?
There's usually something about policy and law. Policy, fine, but it doesn't go to the next stage. Policies most of the time are the discretion of maybe whoever is empowered to implement. Yeah, it is appreciated that we have a whistleblowing policy, but I think what we should be aiming at is to have a Whistleblowers Act that people can now, I mean, there's this whole question in the media that some people that blew, that gave information, there is now a discrepancy of what should be given to them and what should not be given to them, an agreement. But if these things were inched in law, there will be no discrepancy. It is not at the behest of government to say that I'm going to now give 1% or 2%. But because it is a policy, government can, at some point, implement those policies based on their feeling or on the way they think. So the whistleblowers policy is fine, but I think we need to move beyond the policy to have a real legislation on whistleblowers protection. And if there are any compensations for such whistleblowers, it should be based on those laws and it should be thoroughly dealt with. I appreciate the policy. Maybe it has helped, but it definitely will not take us to where we need to go to.
Why do you think it is important for us to know the names of those behind the recovered loot? End quote.
Yeah, because we need to know them. Because if you don't, 2019 is down again. Some of them may be politicians that will come out again to tell us that they want to run for office. And we will not have that information, and we could also, mistakenly vote them back in. So it is necessary everywhere. I mean, as far as you do your deals in terms of trying to recover the asset, there's need not to protect these people that have stolen government money. There's need for us to know. There's need for us to see, if it is companies, we need to know those companies. If it is individuals, we need to know those individuals. I think it is to the good of the citizens that citizens are aware of who is doing what. Because by and large, if you close it up, chances are that those people might likely go back and take more, and take more money. So there must be a deterrent, at least naming and shaming, that has to happen to enable people, begin to be more conscious when they deal with government property. I'm
curious, excuse me, how would you rate citizens buying? Yeah, you said that citizens are talking about it, which means that, which is good, and you say that it's good for traction. But beyond talking,